Hello everyone, I'm Michaela Kathleen, and today I'm doing a video of book recommendations based on my childhood phases, kind of matching them with photos. And this is an idea that has been done in, I think, kind of various forms. The two that I've seen are from Emma over on Emma Books and Haley over on Haley in Bookland, so I will link their videos down below. So my first photo comes from what I call my too cool for school phase. As a little kid, I valued coolness over everything. I did not want to be cute at all. I wanted to be cool. And so, yeah, I had these very boyish clothes. I was a total tomboy. And as you can see, there was not much smiling going on. This is actually a pretty good sized smile for me. I was super into those like crooked grins or lopsided smiles. That trope was, I think, everything for me back in the day. Now I find it kind of annoying because every YA boy that is a romantic interest has the crooked smile. But I was totally into the whole smirk back then. And so for this particular phase, I would recommend to my younger self The Last Book in the Universe by Rodman Philbrick. I loved this book as a kid. This was one of the first books that got me into reading, and I think part of it was because it takes place in such a grungy, grimy, hard world, and so I just thought it was very cool, and it was dystopian, and like I said, everything was grungy and dirty and very cool. But it is about a post-apocalyptic world in which the entire world is run by gangs. There has been a big earthquake that kind of destroyed the world, and the main character lives in an area run by gangs. There is another area of the world where people have used genetic modification to sort of survive better in this post-apocalyptic world. But our character is not in that area, and our character is named Spaz, and he has epilepsy, and he used to live with an adoptive family, but they became scared of his seizures. They didn't know what they were, and so they feared that he might somehow harm their daughter, and so they sent him away. And at the beginning of the book, he receives a message that his former adoptive sister is dying of cancer. And so the book is following him on his journey to try to go see her one last time before she dies. I had definitely read this book by the time this photo was taken. I think I was about 9 in this photo. And yeah, I've just read this too many times to count, and definitely it probably goes best with my too cool for school phase. Because the tagline for this is, nobody around here reads anymore. Although secretly I loved reading and school. So my next phase was my Taekwondo phase. As I think kind of a part of my too cool for schoolness when I was a child, I always really wanted to be in martial arts. This was partially because I was a big fan of the show Dragon Ball Z as a kid, and they always were doing martial arts in that show, and I thought it was so cool and tough. And so I think my young martial arts loving little self would have loved Divergent by Veronica Roth. I think everyone probably knows what this is about, but a brief description: this is another dystopian in which society is divided into factions, with each faction valuing a certain characteristic most, such as telling the truth, or intelligence, or philanthropy, and our main character ends up in the faction that sort of protects the society. They are the brave faction. This faction is called Dauntless, and as a part of the faction, members are required to do martial arts training and have the ability to fight. So there are a lot of fighting and training scenes in this book, and I think I would have loved it during my Taekwondo years. My next phase was my acting phase. Me and my best friend got really into our local theater as teenagers. I loved performing. It was a great way to let out my creativity, and I really just loved being in the theater and that environment, and I loved the people. And so for this version of myself, I would recommend The Fashion Committee by Susan Juby. This is not a theater nerd book. It is about a prestigious art school that puts on a competition every year in a different art department at the school in order for students to win scholarships. And this year, the fashion department is putting on the competition, and so the competition is to design an outfit. And so we have two main characters. One, John Thomas Smith, who is a metal worker and so is not very excited that this year's competition is a clothing design competition, and Charlie Dean, who has wanted to be a fashion designer all her life. And so I picked this one for my acting phase because it's characters who are very passionate about their particular art. Even though it's not theater, they're still very passionate about it. And the characters all have really big personalities, and it's very, I don't want to say cliquish because that makes it sound bad, but it's they're all together in a group chasing this passion of theirs, and that's felt very similar how it is to be in the theater and to be a theater kid. My next phase was my scene phase. I think everyone in the mid to late 2000s that were in middle and high school at this time went through this phase, and I was no different. And so for this phase, I would recommend Maximum Ride by James Patterson. I think just something about the having wings and kind of being on the run, and like definitely all the characters themselves seemed like they were probably scene kids. Like it definitely had a very scene vibe to me for some reason. And so yeah, I think I would recommend this one. It is about a group of kids who have had experiments done on them, and they have wings and they can fly. And they've escaped from the place where the experiments were done on them, and they're being chased by other creatures that this place has created. So yeah, I think this is a book that would go really well in the scene era. My final phase, doing a complete 180 from my first phase, was my girly phase. And for this one, I would recommend The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants by Anne Recherche. This was the first girly book that I really got into as a kid. Me and my friend read it together, and we got our own pair of pants to send back and forth to each other and write on, and sent each other letters, even though we were never separated for a long time. This book is about 4 friends who have lived their entire lives together, and for the first time ever, they're all traveling for the summer and are not going to see each other for the entire summer. And they find these pair of pants that magically fit all 4 of them, and so they decide that they will send the pants to each other throughout the summer with letters to keep in contact. So yeah, this was kind of my first foray into more quote-unquote girly literature, I guess. And I couldn't think of a better one for it. It showcases friendship, and it's something that you can do with your own friends and build your friendships stronger. And this actually ties in with my acting phase a little bit. At my local theater, there was a Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants summer class in which we put on scenes from the book, and we had a pair of class pants that we all wrote memories of the summer on, and then at the end we cut up the pants and got to take pieces home. So yeah, definitely a very fun book, and would recommend it for anyone going through their girly phase. So yeah, these books can kind of represent some different phases in my life. Some of them I read them during that phase, and that was great to have something to kind of match my personality to read about. And others are ones that I would recommend to myself at that time if I could, that I maybe didn't get to read until later on. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed seeing some of my pictures and getting some book recommendations based on that. Thanks for watching. Remember, words matter.